I'm Tanishka, and I am just going to share with you the insights that I've got for this full moon today in Capricorn. Now, Capricorn is the sign of the goat. Now, the mountain goat is one who can scale, right to the top of the mountain. So that last 10% that sorts us out, it divides people up into those that will just give their all to reach the summit, to achieve the goal. And that takes, great inner discipline. And that comes from the word discipleship, which is a real key that willpower is not going to get us there, okay? It's to serve a higher purpose, something greater than us, is what will get us through that last 10% to scale the mountain. Hi, those of you joining me live, thanks for tuning in. So, if you're feeling challenged by life at the moment, that's absolutely appropriate for full moon in Capricorn, because Capricorn presents us with obstacles. It's ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is kind of like the gatekeeper that gives us tests to mature. And those tests come in the form of really getting honest with ourselves about where we're being neglectful of ourselves, because this sign is about responsibility, our ability to respond. So the word responsibility, people can kind of, recoil at that. But it's simply our ability to respond with right action. And right now, the world is in absolute crisis. We are experiencing, the transition, the crossroads. And whilst I have no doubt the light will prevail, we need to act. We need to respond. Each and every one of us that put our hands up to be here at this time. So, whatever in your life is asking you to take right action, to step up, to be the biggest version of yourself. And that might mean completely restructuring your life so that it is in alignment with the absolute totality of your soul. So, if you are living a life that is betraying your soul on some level, if you are getting your income from something that is destroying the planet, or undermining your core values, this is a time to say that's it, no more. And the dark father inside of us then will often respond with, oh, that isn't the sensible thing to do, you've got a family to provide for, or whatever, that's not being responsible. But this is where the archetype of the father has been hijacked. And Capricorn is the father sign. This is the sign that's going to bring up our relationship with that archetypal energy of father, which is within all of us. It's an aspect of our psyche that resides in the heart chakra along with the inner mother. Now, just as we need the inner mother to identify and nurture and caretake our needs, we need the inner father to be able to set boundaries, to create disciplined routines that will form a structure that holds and supports us, as scaffolding. And if we don't have that, then we're not able to create, okay, which is what the mother wants to do. She wants to birth visions into reality, but we need to have a balance of both of these energies. So before the patriarchal monotheistic religions, we honored the father as the green man, the one who resided in the heart. And you'll get a lot of men that have developed this ancient archetypal energy of the father living in areas that have a lot of green, okay, living close to nature, because the original father archetype, the original husband, was one who embodied true husbandry. So he lived in alignment with the cycles of the earth. He assisted the growth and the cyclic nature of the feminine to create by working in harmony with the feminine. So, you know, when we look at Monsanto and we look at, you know, all the things that are being done against Mother Nature, against the cycles, I'll speak to that in a sec, Jenny. So I'm speaking about the full moon in Capricorn today. So we have the sun moving through Cancer, which is the opposite sign. We always get the full moon in the opposite sign to the sign that the sun is moving through. And the reason for that is full moon is the time of union, the time of communion. It's the time when the moon reflects the most amount of sunlight. So it's a time when we feel this pull towards our opposite to harmonize and heal the polarity of light and shadow, feminine, masculine. It is a time of coming together, breaking bread with loved ones, neighbors, having community dinner, having sacred lovemaking with your beloved, and devoting your prayers of ecstasy to the raising of consciousness of the all. You know, this is a magical time. It's a time when we do, however, need to be grounded in our bodies, because at full moon, you know, we're so expanded that we, if we're not caretaking our needs, we can be manic. So in Capricorn full moon, that can lead to overworking and not being in our bodies, not caretaking our needs, not balancing it with Cancer, the opposite polarity. Because each sign is not an island unto itself. It's part of an axis. So if we're working with being initiated by the energies of full moon in Capricorn, we have to embody the positive traits of Cancer, which is the ability to live in alignment with the cycles, with cyclic wisdom, to caretake our needs by understanding our needs on a cyclic basis. So, lovely to have you here live. Thanks for those of you that are here live. Sorry, I'm wobbling the screen around a bit. I've got it balanced on my knees. So, I'll just speak a little bit about the archetype of the father some more, because Capricorn brings up our father issues, and 99% of us have been fathered by men that embodied the archetype of Zeus rather than the green man. And Zeus is a sort of a patriarchal version of the father. So what happened when the monotheistic religions were introduced, which stamped out the influence of the sacred feminine? It you know, stamped out the cyclic wisdom teachings. So what happened was the divisions was made between, or the land was divided up between Zeus, the sky father, Hades, the underworld lord, and just blanked on the one for the sea. Sorry, I'll get back to you on that. So starting with Zeus. You know, Zeus is like this distant sky father, you know, the archetypal projection of, you know, the god that is the guy, the long beard, in sandals, you know, with his thunderbolts and his lightning, very punitive. So his form of justice was to punish, to use fear and guilt to manipulate people into submission, to dominate and control. And so this has been purported by religious doctrines as the father energy. And so this, you know, it's so important, the mythic archetypes that are residing in our collective consciousness, because they provide the map, the template for us to embody these energies in the microcosm. And so this led a lot of men to being the distant father and husband. You know, they were more committed to their work than to their family, to their partner, to the earth. And so, you know, whilst this has been great for building power and wealth and possessions, it has cost our social sustainability. Our, you know, divorce rate is at 50%. Our children are in therapy, and you know, the earth is dying. So we need the green man back. Now, Capricorn holds a real key to this because if the other archetype that I feel in my bone marrow relates to Capricorn is Pan. And Pan is the ancient god of the forests, of the wild places. Hence the children's book, Where the Wild Things Are, was so embraced on a global scale because we long for Pan. He's a part of us, and he was scapegoated and banned by, religious doctrines that said anything natural was profane. It was not sacred. So he was seen as being taboo and socially unacceptable. But Pan is the part of us who, governs the male archetype, who governs the base chakra, and he is the wild child. He is at one with the elements. If you want a pop culture reference, Tarzan is a great one. But he is, when empowered, he's man versus wild. He's, the man who is totally able to survive in the raw elements of creation because he deeply understands and respects and reveres them. He doesn't fear them because he's in a state of separation from nature. When we're in that state of separation, we cushion ourselves with, all the sort of things that cost the planet, like air conditioning and electricity, and and hell, I use those things too, but I'm trying to wean myself off. So we're all going through this process of coming back to rewilding ourselves, and I know that's a global movement. So the key for Pan to be able to mature into the wise sage, because Kronos, if we look at the archetypes of Capricorn, if it's balanced by the cyclic wisdom of Cancer, of the moon mother, the lunar grandmother, who teaches us how to caretake our needs by understanding the influences that the moon, the planets, the seasons of the earth have on our psyche, have on our energy levels, have on our libido, have on our creativity, have on our emotions, and our every aspect of our life. If we understand that, then we can live in a state of sacred union and communion with ourselves and with each other and with the greater cycles. So this is what helps Pan to mature, so that he's not just Peter Pan, the boy who wants to just run and play in nature but not take responsibility for being a custodian of Mother Earth, of Eden. And so it is through marrying the feminine, the sacred feminine within himself, that then he awakens the Grail king, the sacred king within him, which is to be a custodian of Gaia, of Eden, to be a sacred warrior, one who will honor the cycles, honor the sacred feminine, honor nature as his teacher in order to become wise. And then he becomes Kronos, who is Father Time. And so when he's not initiated into the sacred feminine teachings of the Moon Mother, he can be locked into linear time. So this is someone who's never got time for his children because he's always worried about time, kind of like the White Rabbit, in Alice in Wonderland. Time sees time as slipping away, time that is spent, time as a commodity, rather than seeing time as eternal and cyclic, which is the feminine approach to understanding time. And for those that want more knowledge or insight into the cycles of time, my latest book, Goddess Wisdom, speaks about how the cycles of the astrological ages have shaped the evolution of our species through the ages. So yeah, if you want more reading on that, there's you can go to my website, themoonwoman.com, for that. So if the archetype of the father is not balanced by the inner feminine, okay, if a man is not open to receiving the cyclic wisdom teachings of the sacred feminine, he will remain that cold, distant Capricornian father, the one who is punitive, punishing, so withholds love and punishes those that he really loves because he is afraid. He is afraid of being in his heart, so he retreats into his mind and then becomes very critical, very judgmental. So his partner and his children feel that they're never enough, that they can't do enough or be enough to win his approval. And this is what really minimizes the inner sun, the solar plexus. So the lesson in relating to the inner father, I'm just going to move that off my knees for a bit, is to really awaken one's inner authority. And where does our inner authority sit? It sits in the heart. Okay, our heart has more neurons than the mind. So the heart is where we receive intuition. Okay, intuition comes from the infinite mind of God. Okay, the divine universal intelligence that we all have equal access to. But the way that we access that is by opening the central pillar of light that runs through our light body. That's our energy body, yeah? And this is something that the ancient Egyptians, the Lemurians, the Atlanteans, all the Mesopotamians, the advanced civilizations that, you know, patriarchy rewrote history as being backward. They were not. They were way more advanced than us. And they understood that true intelligence does not come through the 10% rational mind. You know, they didn't have universities. They didn't go and study books. Instead, what they would do is Kundalini raising practices to clear and open the rainbow bridge, okay? The 7 major energy centers known as chakras, which means wheels of light, the vortexes or stargates that were also known in Tantra as the eyes of God. Okay, so when we open these gates, we see the different dimensions of reality. And so we awaken the multi-dimensional soul, the true self. Now, this is the middle pillar that sits between the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine. Okay, so, and those of you that are familiar with tarot will know that the high priestess on her throne in the cards sits between the pillars of light and dark. So her service is to awaken Sushumna, receive teachings and give them. And so that's how I serve. And many women are doing this role, okay? But we all have this ability, okay? We all have the ability to connect directly with universal divine intelligence and download intuition, download, truth, okay? And when we receive intuition, it comes down through the crown faster than a speed of light, and it strikes the heart like a bell. It's like knowing, okay? It's our first impression, our first gnosis, our inner knowing, okay? The Gnostics, this is how they practiced. And so, we do ourselves a great disservice if we are not governed by this. This is our inner authority. If we have not awakened this, we are not sacred and sovereign, a king or a queen unto ourselves. We are looking for somebody outside of us to serve, somebody who, knows more than us. And whilst, teachers are helpful and necessary on the path, they open doors. We are not to give our mind, our sovereignty, our personal authority over to any other being outside of us. So when the full moon is coming up in Capricorn, this is an opportunity to go, where have I given my own inner authority over to another being, and to reclaim our inner authority, our inner knowing, to attune to what is true for us, what is right for us, what is the path of right action, what is the direction that we are to head in. And then we have our inner father anchored, So we're no longer seeking approval from external authority figures outside of us. We only look to ourselves for authority. So something else that I'd like to speak about, just one last thing on the father archetype. When the green man is awakened, okay, Cernunnos was his name in the ancient Celtic indigenous tradition, which is my lineage. He was known as Cernunnos, and he was the stag king. He had awakened the sacred feminine within himself, and so the horns of the stag represent the Shekinah, the tree of life, the man who has awakened Sushumna and the inner tree of life within himself. So I will be initiating men into the Grail to awaken the ancient stag king, good king, green man archetype with a dear man, Tanema Huda Heke, who is a beautiful Maori shaman. And we'll be beginning that starting winter solstice 2019 in Australia. And then we're looking for somewhere in the Northern Hemisphere to do that in December 2019. And we'll alternate hemispheres every solstice, initiating men. For men and women who are interested in awakening Sushumna, I invite you to join me for the Rainbow Bridge retreat happening here in Bali, in Ubud, which is one of the 2 places on the planet where the main meridians of the sacred feminine and sacred masculine lines cross within the mother's energy grid. The other place is Peru, where I'm going in December, actually. So this is a very potent portal to do Kundalini awakening processes. But when we're doing the Rainbow Bridge retreat is when the sun is moving through Ophiuchus. So this is the constellation of the awakened man, the man who has raised those inner twin serpents, the inner meridians known as Ida and Pingala, that sit in the base chakra. And when we're initiated into the ancient tantric teachings to meet the 7 faces of the god and the goddess that govern the 7 gates, those 7 main vortices in the body, chakras, then we awaken those serpents and awaken our consciousness. And I've said before, when the serpents rise, the people will rise. So we are awakening these serpents. The more people that do it within the energy field, the quicker we will awaken that within the world soul. You know, if you've heard of the 100th monkey, when enough people do it, we reach the tipping point and the whole collective consciousness shifts in an instant. So, if you feel called, there's information about that on my website, themoonwoman.com. Just go to events and look up Rainbow Bridge Retreat. It's for men and women, regardless of whether you're in a relationship or single or, gay, straight, hetero, trans, doesn't matter. We've all got feminine, masculine within us. So it's about opening the totality of who we are as souls. So, and in that journey, we're really looking at the disowned aspects, so what's been unconscious and taking responsibility for that, as well as our divine potential, our divine blueprint and nature at each gate, so that we are in the middle. We are seeing both our shadow and our light, taking responsibility for embodying both, but being centered in the middle. And this is what it is to embody the god or the goddess here in form, in physicality. You know, a woman who is a goddess is a woman who has awakened not just her 7 feminine archetypes, but her 7 masculine. So she is whole, not just a half looking for another half. Likewise, a man who is a god of a man has awakened not just his 7 masculine archetypes, but his 7 feminine archetypes. So he is whole. And when enough of us do this, you know, what we're seeing is the beloveds are coming together, those who have taken this journey. And when beloveds come together, then, they initiate each other into a whole new level of self-mastery. And that is how we're going to restore this beautiful garden planet back to Eden, through more and more people awakening the Rainbow Bridge and becoming sacred and sovereign beings, looking to be initiated by her seasons, by the cosmic wheels of time, by the indigenous plant medicines. This is how we awaken the full potential of ourselves at this time. So something else I want to speak about is bearing the burden with joy, because, I'm talking about big stuff here, about us saving the planet by taking full responsibility for ourselves. Capricorn asks us to take on a burden in order to grow, to fulfill our potential, and that may be fatherhood, that may be motherhood, that may be birthing and fathering or mothering a project or mentoring others. But for all of us here on the planet right now, it's certainly about saving the planet. And since we're all, fractals, we're all part of the one, the one thing we can do is take responsibility for ourselves and our own personal actions. So that can be joyful, okay? So, a lot of people fear responsibility. It's literally R-rated. We see pornography and things that are R-rated because they're restricted. I think it should be R-rated for responsibility, because that is what makes someone a true adult. When we go through Saturn return in our 29th year, Saturn being the ruling planet of Capricorn, we have to grow up, yeah? So Saturn is like the handbrake that goes on, and it creates obstacles for us to overcome in order to step up. So wherever Saturn is in our personal natal chart, and it looks like an H with an extended leg and a cross through that leg. And if you, get your birth date, location and time and look up where your natal Saturn is, that will show you where you really need to take responsibility for yourself. So, I'll give you an example. I have Saturn in Taurus. So I have to take responsibility for embodying love and pleasure, for embodying the goddess. And when I do that, I will bear my responsibilities with greater joy rather than just being a workaholic, because being a workaholic does not serve, the lesson that I've come here to learn, and so it does not help others. So, do go to astro.com. It's no affiliation with me. It's a free site where you can just get a very basic reading if you don't have your natal astrological chart, to find out where Saturn sits in your chart. And then Astro Gold is a great app for, looking more into your chart in detail. Or you can simply Google when you locate, Saturn I have Saturn in the first house, Saturn in Taurus. Google that and get insights into it. That would be a great thing to do today, to look at the area of your life that you need to step up and take responsibility for. I might just say, Taurus is not just about love and pleasure, it's also about the body. So when I went through my Saturn return, I tore the cartilage in my knee because I was dancing as a temple dancer at a tantric wedding ceremony, and I didn't warm up because I was running late. So, it taught me to take responsibility for my body, for my physicality. But, if you have Saturn in Cancer, often people will have unwanted pregnancies because they're not taking responsibility for their ability to procreate. So wherever Saturn is sitting in your chart is often, the big flag that says, hey, this is where you need to take responsibility for yourself in your life. Capricorn also governs the structure of our body. So our skeletal structure, our muscles, our ligaments, the cartilage. So this is a day to be extra careful and honoring of your body. So if you're going to do, say, an ecstatic dance practice, make sure that you spend at least 15 to 20 minutes doing a thorough warm-up, stretching your body, so that you don't do yourself an injury. But yeah, looking at how you can honor your body on an ongoing basis. What structures can you put in place to really, support yourself on a physical level? That might also be with your finances. And also it's a time to review our structures. So that's how we structure our time. So you might look at, where am I not being efficient? Where am I no longer being productive? What needs to be tweaked? What needs to be let go of? Or where do I need to put, time management into place? Some people don't have a lot of internal structuring. They need external structures. So they need a more disciplined daily routine. Whereas others have strong internal structuring, the ability to prioritize tasks. What else do I want to say on that? There was something else. Oh, yes. Marriage is a structure. So this is also a time to review the structures of how we've set up our life. Is it still supportive of who we are and our core truth and values, or is it restrictive in some way? Has it become more of a jail for our soul, a soul cage? So this is an opportunity to review all the structures in our life and to ask ourselves, is this holding me in a supportive way, giving me a scaffolding to build something of long-lasting value? And also look at how we can conserve what we have, how we can be resourceful with what we have, not just blow it and be reckless. If we want to build, collaboratively, that is the way forward. The old way was the way of the empire building paternal figure. That was, the sort of patriarchal view of Capricorn, someone who builds an empire and then hoards all their money and keeps it just for their family. Now we are awakening to the fact that we all come from the one mother. We are all the one family, and the next person's needs are important to us personally. So this is about us learning to share our resources. And when we do that, we open to the divine flow. And magic happens, okay? True abundance happens. So, yeah, if you're hoarding in some way, look at how you can be generous of spirit with your time, with your energy, and with what you have. So, yeah, look, I think, one final thing. Shadow Capricorn can be punitive. So don't be punishing with yourself today, okay? Don't be critical. Don't be harsh. See yourself through the heart. And, I've said this before, that if you don't have a daily practice to connect with yourself, whether that includes journal writing, meditation, qigong, tai chi, yoga, going for a walk in nature, going for a run, it'll look different for every person, but see it as a gift that you give to yourself, to nurture your needs, to give you a structure to be your best person every day, to put your best foot forward so that you don't retract into your patriarchal father's view of you, okay, which may be somebody who felt they were never enough and had to overgive, overwork in order to prove their worth. We are better than that. But we need to come home to ourselves to transcend the distortion of those archetypes. So I hope that's helpful. If you find these teachings, helpful, please consider sharing them with your brothers and sisters and your elders and your children, and may we rise together. So blessings on your day, blessings on your full moon. Spread the joy, spread the love, and have a beautiful full moon. Blessings.